Hello there, you magnificent specimen you. This is Chris from TechSpert, and I'm here with honestly two of my favourite smartphones launched so far in 2019. Here on the left you've got the Asus Zenfone 6, launched just over a week ago, defies expectations on many levels. And here on the right we're going to compare it with the OnePlus 7 Pro, also recently revealed. And of course they've both got gorgeous full view displays, they've got top end premium specs, and the asking prices aren't out of the world. They're not like Galaxy S10 Plus levels. So what is the difference between them and which one might be best for you? And for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, one of the definite highlights of these two handsets is that full view finish. The fact that you've got no nipply notch action up top or little pinhole cameras or anything like that. Those screens basically do stretch the full length and breadth of the device. And of course this effect is achieved because you don't have a selfie camera permanently on display there. It's a pop-up number. Very cheeky indeed here on the OnePlus. As in the case of the Zenfone, that entire rear camera actually flips up to the front, which is quite a funky and pretty novel as well. I've only seen it on the Galaxy A80, that sort of design. Of course, if you're looking for a kind of compact, quite easy to handle smartphone, then neither of these are really going to do the job. The Zenfone 6 is actually the more compact of the two at 6.4 inches. So even with those pretty much non-existent bezels, it is still quite a handful and quite hefty as well at 190 grams. The OnePlus 7 Pro is no lighter, and again, despite the wraparound effect of that display and the fact that the bezels are pretty much non-existent, is quite a handful, and at 6.67 inches that's not too surprising. One of the biggest smartphone displays I've ever checked out. It's a Gorilla Glass coating on both of these displays. It is actually Gorilla Glass 6 here on the Zenfone 6 and it's Gorilla Glass 5 here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and if you flip them both over you do get a Gorilla Glass rear as well. For the Zenfone 6 you basically just get a choice of black or silver finishes, but it looks quite neat and tidy. As you can see, you've got the Asus brand in there and their usual funky font and everything. In the case of the OnePlus 7 Pro, you can actually pick it up in a couple of different finishes. This is the more matte metallic style finish, so it's actually much better at the Zenfone at hiding scuffs and greasy print, but you can pick it up in a shiny mirror finish as well. And there's a limited edition almond model as well if you're feeling particularly flush. So far, touch wood, neither phone shown any signs of scuffs, scratches, anything like that. Although you do get dedicated water resistance here on the OnePlus 7 Pro. It doesn't have an official IP rating, but you can give it a good old dunking in a sink or something like that and it'll be absolutely fine. There is unfortunately no proper water resistance here on the Zenfone 6, mostly thanks to the complicated camera tech and the rest. However, one bonus that the Zenfone does have over the OnePlus 7 Pro is the fact that you get an actual 3.5mm headphone jack, so great news if you still rock a pair of the wired headphones. Otherwise, you're stuck with a bit of dongle action, or of course they both support Bluetooth 5. And both these phones also have a fingerprint sensor for security. In the case of the OnePlus 7 Pro, it's actually built into the display itself. It's just a simple optical scanner, unfortunately. It just takes a 2D image of your fingerprint and then uses that to unlock the handset, so it's not quite as secure or as accurate as the likes of the ultrasonic sensor found on the S10 Plus. But the Zenfone rocks a very different kind of sensor. It's an old school physical sensor, quite a dinky one here on the back, and of course just a quick tap of that and you're again straight into your desktop. So they're certainly both nice and nippy, that's for sure. No hanging about or anything like that. And yeah, you do have face recognition on the Zenfone and the OnePlus because it's a bit more awkward than it would be on just your standard handset. Here on the Zenfone, you've actually got to tap this little icon down here, wait for the camera to pop up. It's pretty quick considering everything that's involved, but obviously not as fast as it would be on a standard handset. Here on the OnePlus 7 Pro though, it is definitely faster. As you can see, that camera action nice and smooth and unlocks in well under a second. Now onto that screen tech, and we have to say if you're absolutely after the very best of the best, then the OnePlus 7 Pro is the clear choice of these two. On the OnePlus you get a 6.67 inch AMOLED display compared with a 6.4 inch IPS here on the Zenfone 6. That AMOLED is just absolutely stunning. For one, you've got full HDR10 Plus support here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, so as you can see there, you can stream HDR content from the likes of Netflix, and you can't quite do here on the Zenfone. And as you can see here, the visuals are just absolutely stunning on the OnePlus. It's got a Quad HD Plus resolution as well, so everything is nice and crisp. Full HD Plus here on the Zenfone 6, but as you can see, the Zenfone, it doesn't disappoint. It still produces a really nice picture. It's just you get those really nice, full, realistic, punchy hues on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Of course, you can fully mess around and customize the display output in the settings menu as well. As you'll see, if we dive on into the display settings, you've got all the usual stuff, the adaptive brightness, the nightlight modes and all of that, but you can also play around with the actual color output as well. So you've actually got a selection of stuff here on the OnePlus 7 Pro. As you can see, you could fit the sRGB gamut, bit of DP3, whatever you fancy, or you can actually physically play around with the likes of the color temperature as well. And you've got a similar sort of setup here on the Zenfone 6. It's not quite as customizable, unfortunately, but you can once again play around with like the hue levels, the saturation, and of course that color temperature as well to fit your own personal preferences. And of course, you've got full 90 Hz refresh rate support here on the OnePlus 7 Pro as well, so every action you perform just looks so silky smooth. And the Zenfone certainly doesn't disappoint on that front either, you know, thanks to the top end premium performance. But yeah, definitely the OnePlus 7 Pro's display just feels that little bit more sexy. You also have a full stereo speaker setup on both these handsets as well, but let's just say it's a little bit better on the OnePlus 7 Pro. We'll do a quick side-by-side demonstration right now. Actually, Honor 20 Pro handset here on the left, the most premium Honor handset you can buy in 2019, and that is of course a mantle. And now on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Hello there, you gorgeous stunning person. This is Chris from TechSpert, and I'm here with a fresh new Honor 20 Pro handset here on the left, the most premium Honor handset you can buy in 2019. So as you can see, a bit more punchy here on the OnePlus 7 Pro. You've definitely got a higher volume coming out of this thing, and also just the general clarity and everything is better as well. The earpiece speaker, unfortunately, here on the Zenfone ain't that great. And while you've got a bit of Dolby Atmos support here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, you do have a bit of DTS:X support here on the Asus Zenfone 6, because you've got that 3.5mm headphone jack, which is always snazzy. So yeah, so strong audio support from both of them at least. Now you get a tasty slice of Android pie with both the Zenfone and the OnePlus, but you've also got the manufacturer's own overlay sat on top, which adds some bonus features. So you've got Zen UI version 6 here on the Zenfone, and you've got OxygenOS 9.5 on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Thankfully, neither of these overlays are particularly intensive or intrusive. I actually get on really well with both of them, and they've both got a fairly sort of stock Android feel, especially Zen UI 6 here. They've really scaled back on the heavy sort of the font changes, the theme changes, all that sort of thing. It does actually quite feel like stock Android. Of course, you've got your apps drawer on both of them, which is really, really nice to see, so you don't have to have all your apps cluttered there on the desktop like it's a bloody iPhone. You've got your Google feed here on the Zenfone 6, so again, very stock UI, whereas that's actually been replaced with the shelf feature. It's basically a collection of customizable widgets here on the OnePlus 7 Pro. One of the features which I really love on the Zenfone, because it's an absolute beast of a smartphone, is one-handed mode, which just makes everything in life so much easier. All of your apps can be used in this shrunken version, and of course reaching that notifications bar is so much bloody easier. Here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, sadly you do not have a dedicated one-handed mode. You do at least get a little bit of help with that notifications bar, and then you can just pull it down from anywhere on screen, but unfortunately it's not quite the same when you're trying to desperately use your apps with only one available mate. What I do like though is that both of these smartphones do have a form of gaming mode as well. You get the gaming mode, I think it's version 2.0 now on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and you get the Game Genie here on the Zenfone 6. Now speaking of the gaming features, we might as well start on the performance as well. Both of these handsets rock a Snapdragon 855 chipset backed by either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. You can actually get the OnePlus 7 Pro with 12 gigs as well, which frankly is absolutely ludicrous. And of course what that means is the likes of the latest games such as PubG Mobile play with an absolutely perfect frame rate as you'd expect, and everyday experience is nice and silky and smooth. So those gaming modes do actually allow you to optimize the performance, which is quite frankly ludicrous, because as I say, they are top-end premium performers all around anyway. But as you can see, you can basically just generally speed up the and optimize the performance just by basically culling background apps, things like that. Not that you'll ever need to do that. And you can also set it so you aren't bothered by any pesky notifications while you're playing as well, which is always very handy. If you don't want any emails popping up in the middle of a frantic frag fest or anything like that. And with the likes of the OnePlus 7 Pro, it actually goes a few steps further as well. You've got the likes of haptic feedback, thanks to that awesome display, of course. And you've got the fresh new Fnatic mode as well, which is basically extreme gaming. That means absolutely no notifications whatsoever. Pretty much all the background apps are culled to allow PubG Mobile, for instance, to have full unfettered access to your data and so on and so forth. And if you like to actually record your gaming sessions to share online or whatever, then great news, you can actually record your screen using either the built-in audio or the mic audio with, again, the Zenfone 6 or the OnePlus 7 Pro. If you do like a bit of benchmarking, well, here's Geekbench 4 scores side by side. As you can see, the OnePlus 7 Pro does score a little bit higher. It does actually support UFS 3.0, so that will help along with the benchmarking if you are going to be transferring files or loading up apps. That UFS 3.0 really helps. But that said, the Zenfone 6 is pretty nippy as well on the whole loading of apps, because the likes of the OptiFlex feature just keeps the apps in memory to make sure that your priority apps, the apps you load up quite often, do tend to pop up pretty much straight away, which is great stuff. As far as the battery life goes, well, the Zenfone 6 should be the clear winner, as it sports a mighty 5000 mAh cell compared with the 4000 mAh stuff to the OnePlus 7 Pro. But that said, we found we got about the same amount of battery life from both, slightly longer here on the Zenfone 6, but both easily see you through a day, even with heavy usage. We're talking lots of camera use, lots of game and things like that. And of course, you've got the usual battery saver modes and everything too. When it comes to recharging, neither of them support wireless charging. It's a bit of a cost-cutting measure, but you do get the fantastic Warp Charge 30 here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and it is so blisteringly fast. It's absolutely incredible. Basically stick it in for 15 minutes, you'll get about 40% charge. Here on the Zenfone 6 you get Quick Charge 4.0 support, which is also pretty nippy but not as fast as the OnePlus. And on a storage tip, you get a choice of either 128 or 256 gigabytes on both of these handsets, but you do also get microSD memory card support here on the Zenfone, up to a further 2 terabytes, something that you do not have on the OnePlus 7 Pro. And now onto the camera tech, and of course it is a very different setup on both of these devices, as we've already kind of half touched on. That said, the primary lens on both these blowers is basically the same. It's a 48 megapixel lens. It's an f1.6 here on the OnePlus, f1.79 on the Zenfone 6, but they both rock Sony's IMX586 sensor, which means you can expect nice, sharp, crisp, colourful results. Of course, here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, that is backed by a 16 megapixel wide angle lens and an 8 megapixel telephoto lens as well, giving you a 3 times optical zoom. Whereas here on the Zenfone, you don't get a telephoto option, you just have a 13 megapixel wide angle. So if we dive on into the camera app, you'll see obviously you've got a choice of telephoto or ultra wide angle lens options here on the OnePlus, whereas you just have that standard and wide angle view here on the Zenfone. You've got very similar options, very similar features on both of these cameras as well. So for instance, both of them rock a portrait mode, which does a pretty good job of keeping your subject nice and crisp while blurring out the background. As you can see here on the OnePlus, however, it does really zoom in, so you do have to take a couple of steps back in order to actually use that. You also have a brilliant night mode on both these devices as well. We actually slightly prefer the Nightscape 2.0 here on the OnePlus 7 Pro. It's absolutely fantastic at creating nice balanced photos in low light environments. Here on the Zenfone, it gets pretty good results as well. Of course, again, in those low light environments, it can really boost the colors and the brightness overall and just make your picture that much more aesthetically pleasing. We do have full Pro controls as well, so you can mess around with the likes of the white balance, the autofocus, all that kind of shenanigans. And if we dive on into the video mode, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage at 60 frames per second for a hyper realistic finish. And of course, if you want to take some selfies here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, you'll have to pop up that 16 megapixel dedicated selfie camera. It does a solid job. You know, you can get a bit of portrait shot action on the go, again with pretty decent edge detection and all that kind of shenanigans, and you can shoot up to full HD resolution video as well. But of course, the Zenfone 6 has a massive advantage, and it basically just flips that rear camera up to face the front. So you've got pretty much all the same features from the rear facing setup, but for your gorgeous, beautiful mug. So for instance, you can once again shoot portrait mode shots, but with a dedicated depth sensor. And of course, you can shoot up to 4K resolution videos at 60 frames per second. Perfect if you're a bit of a vlogger. So yeah, if you are well into your selfies and things like that, then the Zenfone seems to be the way to go. And that right there, in a nutshell, is the Zenfone 6 versus the OnePlus 7 Pro. As you can see, both premium devices, fantastic performance, top-end battery life, and some great camera tech packed in there as well. If you're all about the display though, of course the OnePlus 7 Pro does sport the more premium, super sexy AMOLED panel. And on the other hand, of course, on the Zenfone 6, you do have that very funky flippable camera, which is great if you're into your selfies. So which one are you more tempted by, the Zenfone 6 or the OnePlus 7 Pro? Definitely be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, and please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech. Cheers!